Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to do a jQuery font controller or font sizer. Okay, so this is the end result. We got a small toolbar here. It helps us change the font size. Right? It's easy to do. I'm going to show you. We're going to start with an empty example and an empty code editor. Right? So I'm not going to deal with the design at all. I'm just going to use Bootstrap classes to help me center things out and do some stuff. So the subject of this tutorial is jQuery, so I'm going to stick to that. Just going to create a small HTML framework to work inside. And whenever we work with jQuery, we got to include it. So let's go ahead and grab jQuery from Google. Right, Google hosted libraries. And if you already embedding jQuery in your site, you don't need to do this. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in my head file. And since I'm on a local host, I'm going to have to add the HTTP. And I'll also be using the Bootstrap CSS file, but you should write your own CSS if you're not already using Bootstrap. I'm just doing that to save some time. I'm going to include the Bootstrap JS file also. Great, so I need to add an HTTP at the beginning since I'm on a local host. And that's all. We're ready to go. Okay, so first off, I need to grab some text. Let me just create a container to hold that text. So I'm gonna say lorem ipsum with p. Just gonna take a small paragraph wrapped in a p tag so I can use, and let's go ahead and paste that. So I'm going to duplicate that line a couple of times, maybe 10 times, and I'm going to add some titles inside. Example text. I'm going to add an h2 title here, an h3 title here, and an h4 title, because we want to test the font size of different elements. Alright, so h2 title, just gonna copy that and change the number. Great, so let's check it out. Great, so we have some basic text we can work on and test on, and go back to the code, and let's create now the mini toolbar we need. See, in the complete example we have a mini toolbar that controls the font size, so let's go ahead and create that. So I'm going to create a new div here, a new container, and I'm going to call it, let's say, div font sizer. Okay, that's kind of logical. Inside I'm going to create a list, and let me just add some class here with 3 items. Right, and this class is just thanks to Bootstrap CDN, I can create a list that's floated left. Each item is floating left. We have an horizontal list and not a vertical list. So I'm just going to create 3 items, and the first item is going to be font size, which is just an explanation of what this toolbar is. And the second item is going to be a button with a plus inside it. Right? The third item is going to be a button with a minus inside it. Okay, so let's check it out. Let's see what we have so far. So now we have a small toolbar up here, but it's not really a toolbar since we can't use it when we're here, right? So we're gonna have to make it float to the right, and maybe design it a little bit, style it a little bit. So I'm gonna add some style in here. You should always include CSS as a file and not inside the page whenever you can. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say font sizer, position fixed, stick to the bottom and to the right, and maybe have some border and some padding. Let's say 5px, 5px, 0. 5px. Okay, let's check it out. Great, so now it's here. Great, so I'm just gonna center this text gonna add an additional class, block, now, a little fix for Bootstrap. Great, so now we got a nice, easy to read text to work with. We got a small toolbar that does nothing, but we're gonna fix it right now. Okay, so let's add a script tag, and we're gonna wrap this script tag inside with the jQuery document ready tag, right? So basically, this script text means whatever is inside here is a JavaScript text, right? Between the opening tag and the closing tag. And the jQuery document ready function basically means when the document is fully loaded, is ready, whenever you see a dollar symbol, I'm using jQuery, right? So let's go ahead and test it. When I alert loaded, so we know the page is loaded. Fresh, and we got loaded alert, right? Okay, so now we want to reference a button. We want to record a click on these buttons, and in order to do that we need to give them a name so we can reference them later on. So I'm going to add a class here, and also I'm going to add a class here, and the reason I'm using a class and not an ID will be clearer later. So the first button is a plus, is the increase button, increase the font size button. I'm going to call it increase. Second button is going to be called decrease, right? That's logical. So I'm going to grab that increase class, and I'm going to say whenever someone clicks an element, do a function, and that element is an element that has the class increase, or, and that's what this little comma means, an element that has the class decrease, right? So we're listening to both these buttons. Whenever someone clicks an element that has the class increase or an element that has the class decrease, we want to do a function inside here. Okay? I hope that's clear. So let's test it out. Let's check that everything's working. Let's say whenever someone clicks those buttons, any of those buttons, alert clicked. Let's test it out. I'm going to click a button, and we get a clicked alert. And the minus button again. Great. So now the buttons are working. Let's go down to controlling the font size. Before we can control the font size, we need to check the current font size, right? So we can add or decrease the size. So we gotta grab the font size of paragraph, H2, H3, and H4 elements, right? Let's start with the paragraph. I'm gonna say variable p size, meaning paragraph size. This is just a word. You can choose whatever variable you want. And I'm gonna query using jQuery. I'm going to query the font size. I'm going to say whenever your... No, I want to query only the text inside here. I don't want to query the sidebar if we had one. Just want to query the text inside here. So I'm going to give this wrapper a class. I'm going to say this is a page content, right? So I'm going to say check inside the container that has a class page content, and find me the paragraphs and get me the font size attribute, right? That's what this query means basically. So let's test it out. Let's say alert the p size, whatever we got from this query, whenever someone hits the increase or decrease elements. So I'm going to refresh, I'm going to click something, and I'm getting 14 pixels, which is the font size. Right, so that works great. Let's check it out for the H2 tag. I'm going to duplicate this line, just going to paste H2 here and here, so we have a different variable. So I'm going to paste the H2 into the alert, and I'm going to test it again. Click some button, I'm getting 30 pixels. Right, any button. Great. So that works also. So let's duplicate it 2 more times and add the H3 and H4 element. So now we have each of the elements, the HTML elements in this page, font size. But we have a problem. The problem is that we are getting a string, right? So that's a problem because I can't do arithmetic with that, right? I can't say 30 px plus 2. That means nothing, right? That means nothing. That would be, the result would be something like this. So I need to do 30 plus 2. I need to get rid of those pixels definition. So I'm going to wrap this query with a jQuery function that's named parse integer, right? And I'm going to paste the query inside. So now, let's test it out. I'll be getting only a number. And I'm clicking and I'm getting a 14. That's what we need. We need a number we can work with. So I'm going to wrap all these queries with this definition. Great, so now we have only numbers. We can go ahead into the function bit of the script. So we have 2 buttons. One is a plus sign and one is minus sign. And we want to separate them. We want to do a different function when someone clicks the plus sign and different function when someone clicks the minus sign, right? The minus button. So we can check that by doing this. We can say if, we already know someone clicked a button. If the button that was clicked, meaning this, the element that was clicked, this, has a class of increase, here we should increase the font size, right? Because we know someone clicked on a button that has a class of increase, right? Else if someone clicked on a button and this button has a class of decrease, we need to decrease the font size, right? So let's test that out. Let's alert it and say, let's say bigger font size please when someone hits the increase button, and let's say we alert smaller font size please when someone hits the decrease button. Let's test it out and hit the plus, the bigger font size, and that's what we get. And let's hit the minus and we get the smaller font size please. Great, so we got a way to sort out which button was clicked. So that's great. So now all we have to do is take these variables, change their size and return them back to the browser, right? So we'll be doing something simple. We'll be saying inside the page content container, find the paragraph tags, and using CSS function, a built-in function in jQuery, change the font size to the current size, right? To the current size, which is this variable we grabbed before, plus 2. So we're basically adding 2 pixels to the paragraph tags, right? That's easy enough. It's the same line as here, but instead of querying for the font size, we're changing it. See? So let's test it out and click the plus, and now we see the paragraph tags get bigger, right? Yeah, we haven't changed the minus button yet. Okay, so now we can do that for all the elements, right? So we can duplicate this line and say, in case, find me the H2, find me the H3, find me the H4, and add 2 pixels. And the reason I'm separating those, because I can do something like this, right? Just increase every element. but I wanna say if the H2 title is big enough, so I wanna just add 1 pixel instead of 2 pixels, right? And make it more readable, because somebody clicked that, he probably can't see the text. So I'm just gonna say, in case of H4, add 2, but in case of H2, just add 1. That's big enough, right? So let's grab this entire code and paste it inside decrease, right? And space it out a little bit. And instead of adding, we're gonna subtract, but we're gonna do -2 instead of +2. Sorry, -2. Right? So that should do the opposite of increasing the font size. I'm going to change the plus to minus here and hit refresh, and I'm going to test it out. I can read that. And now let's decrease. Great. I think we have a little problem with the titles. Let's see what the problem is. Oh, yeah, I've used the P size here. So I'm basically saying find the H2 size and use 14 pixels here, right? Add 1 to 14 pixels, but I need to grab the right variable for each element. So let's just paste that all and change. Yeah, so now it should work. I'm gonna hit refresh and try it. Great. So everything's working. That was simple enough. We're done. We finished. I hope you guys got what you needed and that you found this tutorial to be interesting. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll be adding some great jQuery tutorial